You're listening to Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated. I'm Jana Shalom, educator, multidimensional weaver, and your real-time nervous system master regulator. This is not a podcast. This is an attunement lab and the audible expression of a living transmission called Weaving Legacy. Here, we move through a living sequence, a truth that shakes something loose. Then, the pause. Feel our bodies, the bracing, the breath, the return. We don't regulate perfectly, we regulate together. And once we're back with ourselves, we name the systems that taught us to disconnect in the first place. Because programs don't change people. Regulated people change people. This is where we shift from the survival spiral to the re-inhabiting spiral, where we learn to come home to ourselves in real time, where the sanctuary garden door opens from the inside. If your nervous system has been waiting for a place to relax into truth at a pace that it actually needs, then welcome home. This is the voice of a living lineage. Let the transmission call us back into our bodies. Let the weaving root into our daily lives. You're listening to Season 0, Episode 9. The new moon, opening of our third arc, discernment without self-doubt. This episode is called Coherent versus Familiar Signals. New moons are quiet. They do not illuminate. They're for listening. Arc 3 begins exactly the same way. During our last arc, something settled. Authority relocated inward. And we stopped looking outside of ourselves to confirm whether or not our experiences were real. Presence stabilized. We learned that we could feel something without immediately bracing against it. Orientation became less fragile. Clarity no longer pulls us towards urgency. And now something else happens. We begin to notice more. Not louder, not sharper, just more. When that happens, confusion can quietly return. Because what we're noticing doesn't always feel consistent. Some signals feel familiar. We know their rhythm. We know their speed. We know how their thoughts are going to move through our body. They might tighten us. They might mobilize us. But what we do know is often they move toward resolution quickly. Other signals feel different. They're slower, quieter, and way less urgent. Sometimes it's almost like it's just ordinary. And that reflex that we're used to having through urgency would be to evaluate it. Which one's right? The familiar signal or this new one? Which one means progress? Which one means something slipped? Which one means this is a different way of being in this moment? Familiar does not mean wrong. Coherent does not mean better. Both may be present. Nothing needs to be decided. We just need to slow down enough to ask this question. Is it a survival signal? Or is it a signal moving us toward our own authenticity? Survival signals feel familiar because their pathways are well worn. They carried us through real conditions. Their speed we've practiced. They're not mistakes. They're our history. Coherent signals can feel very unfamiliar at first because they do not rush. They do not demand. They do not announce themselves loudly. Coherence is the feeling of being all here, meaning our inner worlds and our outer worlds match. We do not have to fragment ourselves just to function, because we've trained to measure change by intensity. And coherence can be misread as regression. If I'm slowing down, I must be going backwards. And what we're saying is completely different. We're saying coherence does not compete. It steadies us. So instead of making us choose, is it a familiar? Is it coherent? Which one do I pick? We learn to steady first. Sometimes that difference can appear during very small moments. A familiar signal might feel like a sudden need to respond immediately to a message. A tightening in the chest that if I don't do it, I'm doing something wrong. A sense that if resolution doesn't come quickly, then I'm failing. A coherent signal feels much quieter. The awareness is that the message can wait. That's not avoidance. It's just giving us steadiness so we can remain where we are and respond versus react. Because over time, the nervous system begins to trust its own signal again. We've spent our entire lives learning how to not listen to it. So now we're giving it room again. Not because we're finally calm and life is finally better, but because we realize we no longer need to interpret signals as danger. They're information. And here is the still point in all of this. Regulation does not require correction. We're not being asked to switch signals. We're not being asked to override what feels familiar. We're not being asked to prefer coherence. We're simply being invited to recognize what is in front of us. We may feel a familiar survival rhythm rise. Oftentimes, it's going to come with speed. It's going to come with the brace. This pattern, the body knows well. It is a pattern that has kept us safe. It was a brilliant survival strategy. But we may also begin to sense, wait a minute, something else is present here. It's almost like a steadier awareness, a breath that stays without a whole lot of effort, and clarity around a situation versus urgency to fix it. The discernment with coherent signals is gentle. And it's the capacity to recognize what is actually happening without turning that recognition against ourselves. Self-blame, comparison culture, all the ways we're not living up to the life we think we're supposed to be living. So for many of us, this is new territory because historically, noticing something meant fix it. But now we're saying noticing does not mean fix it. Noticing means stay with it. There's no prize for coherence. There's no penalty for things that feel familiar. We're not measuring our progress. We are simply restoring trust within our own locational authority. What is true to our own experiences. And if confusion arises, it belongs. If steadiness arises, that belongs too. If both arise at the same time, they both belong, because nothing here is about accelerating. our weaving for today has come to a rest for this new moon. New moons do not illuminate, they listen. We sit in the dark long enough to hear. We allow our eyes to adjust, and we recognize that rest can simply be stillness. And sometimes the most regulating thing we can do for our nervous system is to refuse to evaluate signals as they come through. A familiar signal may appear. It belongs. A familiar signal may appear. It belongs. New coherent signals may appear. They belong. Nothing here requires action. Next week, under the first quarter moon on March 25th, we'll enter into episode 10, Grief as a Sign of Safety. There, we'll gently name what begins to thaw. Because once bracing loosens, other things come alive. And until then, the threads will hold, and we will remain. You just moved through Reweaving Systems from Nervous to Regulated, the Nervous System Attunement Lab, where regulation happens in real time, where we take a breath, we feel our bodies, not perfectly, but honestly. We notice what shifted, what softened, what resisted, what came online even for a moment. If something stirred awake today, that isn't a sign that you're done. That's a sign that you're practicing the slow, steady work of returning to yourself. This work moves in spirals, not straight lines. We don't regulate once, we return again and again. Each time a little deeper, each time with a little bit more permission. And if today pushed you past your edges, that's part of the path. Edges are where remembering begins. This isn't content we're moving through. This is a living frequency, a lineage-held transmission that reshapes us as we walk it. To keep walking the path of somatic knowing, mythic remembering, and lineage weaving, meet us at Journey the Weave on Substack. And for deeper embodiment and spirit-born insight, enter Journey the Spirit Weave, our paid Substack tiered. Remember, our bodies are not the problem. Our nervous systems are not the obstacle. They are portals we are relearning how to trust. And if just one of us practices coming home to ourselves, systems begin to change. We'll see each other at the next episode. Until we weave again.